Hey, this Judgment Waits back with some more Black Ops 2 videos for you. This is my class setup guide, and I've got a request for all my classes. Oops, I'm on my core classes. I'm going to switch over to my hardcore setup. But these are all my hardcore classes. You guys requested it, so I'm putting it out there. Now, before we get into these classes, I've kind of avoided doing a video like this for a couple reasons. One is, like I've said in previous videos, we all don't play the game the same way. So this is what works for me. So keep that in mind as we go through this. If I were to watch the Jesus Freaks or Kingdom Soldiers or Ocho Blanco's videos and watch their class setups, that's probably just not going to work for me. Let me give you an example. I don't think you're ever going to see them using bouncing Bettys, but that is something that I love using and something that works really well for me. So you have to figure out what your play style is, what you like playing, how you like playing, what's fun for you, and kind of adjust your classes according to that. The other reason that I've avoided doing a video like this is because my classes change. If I would have released a video right when this game first came out, I probably would have never recommended using the perk Scavenger. Now it's one of my favorite perks to use. Guns get nerfed, so, I probably would have been using the PDW a lot more. Now I very rarely use that weapon. So keep that in mind as well. Your playstyle is probably going to evolve a little bit, and your classes will evolve with your playstyle. But let's get into these classes. You're going to notice a couple things. I like to set up my classes pretty similarly, and I also like to have two classes for each type of weapon. So you're going to notice two SMG classes, two assault rifle classes, two burst fire classes, and then I have my semi-automatic, which is going to be the FAL, paired with a sniper. And then I've got some class that I'm working on. That's going to be my sound class, and I'll explain that in a little bit. And then I've also got my objective class, because once in a while I like to play more objective type games like domination. If I'm playing kill confirm, that's going to be the same setup I use for team deathmatch. Alright, so let's get into this first class. This is my Hardline SMG. I've got the MP7, and I've got a reflex sight on it and laser sight. I like the reflex sight because this is a very little low recoil weapon, so I can snipe people across the map with that reflex sight. I also have the laser sight for when I'm up close. I can just hip fire and take people out. I've got the small for my secondary because I'm not running ghost or anything like that for my perk 1. So if somebody puts up a UAV, I can pull out my small and take that down. I've got Hardline for my perk 1. That's just going to let me get to my score streaks faster. I've got Scavenger on so I can resupply those bouncing Bettys, and so I don't run out of ammo with my MP7. If I didn't have on Scavenger, I might want to go with like a pistol for my secondary just in case I ran out of ammo or something like that. But I've got perk 3 as Engineer. That's because I want to see where the enemy team is holding up, and a lot of times I can see bouncing Bettys or claymores or shock charges, and that's going to tell me where the enemy is at. Then, of course, this perk delays the triggering of these devices, so that's going to let me get into those people and take them out a lot of times before I even trigger those things. So that's why I like Engineer. Now, I've got bouncing Bettys. I know a lot of you guys don't like bouncing Bettys, but listen, the spawn systems are so nuts in Black Ops 2, you have to have something that watches your back. So bouncing Bettys is like my second person or my best friend. I like to throw those down and move on. If somebody spawns behind me, they're either going to get killed by that Betty or they're going to destroy the Betty, and I'm going to know they're back there and be able to turn around and get at those people. So that's why I really like bouncing Bettys. As far as tacticals, I'd recommend either 2 flashbangs, 2 concussions, 2 EMPs. I just want something I can throw into an area and see if I get a hit marker and know somebody's camping there, or something, to throw into an area and help me actually get the person in that area if they're flashed or if they can't move. So that's it for my Hardline SMG. This is my class where I really like to move fast around the map and take people out and engage people up close. Alright, so what do I do when the other team starts putting up a lot of UAVs or I'm noticing a lot of target finders? I'm going to switch to my stealthy SMG class, or the variation of it. This has the Peacekeeper. The Peacekeeper has great range, and when you put a suppressor on an SMG or any weapon, it reduces the range that you do max damage at. So the Peacekeeper, like I said, has the best range, so it's not going to be affected as much. So that's why I like using the Peacekeeper in this role. I also have on Ghost to counter the UAVs and Cold-Blooded to counter the target finder. So I'm just not going to be showing up as much with this class. Sometimes I'll take off the reflex sight with this class and put on a tactical grenade because I really like having those, and the iron sights on this weapon are pretty decent. So this is how I do it though. I usually have one hardline class and one kind of ghost version or silent class to pair with it, just in case I need to switch during the middle of a game. I also usually don't switch like if one UAV comes out. It's more a matter if I'm playing against a team that is using a lot of UAVs, because obviously I can shoot one down with my small, but sometimes that gets you in trouble. So I only switch to this class if I'm seeing a lot of UAVs going around. Moving on to my Hardline assault rifle class, here it is. I really like the M27 because it is a very smooth firing, low recoil weapon, just like the MP7, and I've got stock on it instead of the laser sight. Other than that, it's pretty much the same as my SMG class, but I really like stock on assault rifles because it helps you moving faster while you're aimed down sight, and you really need to round corners really well in hardcore. You really need to be aimed down sight as you round a corner, and stock is going to really help you do that and help you in your strafing while somebody's shooting at you. You can move left and right and take that person out. The only other difference that you probably notice is I'm running 2 EMP grenades. That's because when I'm using the assault rifle class, it's usually going to be a bigger map, a little bit slower pace, so people are going to be camping more, set up more with Bettys or Claymores, or they might get, sentry guns or something like that. I can throw those EMP grenades at those things and get some free points. Plus, it still works for finding out if somebody is in an area. You will get a hit marker if you throw those in there. Plus, you should just have one class with EMP grenades set up with it just in case you need it. This is my variation of that class, and this is also my anti-air support class. So if the other team is calling in a lot of hunter-killer missiles or stealth choppers, this is the class I'm going to switch to. I've got the suppressor and ghost on it and cold-blooded. That's going to help me keep me off everything. And then blind eye is going to protect me while I'm shooting down that stealth chopper with the FHJ. And then I also have a black hat equipped on it. Like with the EMP grenades, you should have one class with black hat equipped. Just in case your teammate throws a care package off the map or something like that, you can go to this class and pick that up for them, or you might need that for other instances. As you can tell, I have got the AM94. The Scar H is a great weapon too to pair with a suppressor. Both have great iron sights and both have great range, so that's why I like those two weapons with this class. This is my Hardline burst fire class, and that should probably say Hardline 4 round because the M8A1 actually shoots 4 rounds. So I like the M8 better than the SWAT 556 up close when I'm engaging people up close. It's still going to be great at a distance because it is shooting that burst, but up close you get 4 rounds instead of 3, so that's a little bit more forgiving. Plus, you have less of a delay in between trigger pulls, so that's why I go with the M8 up close. Everything else, though, is pretty similar to what I run with the Hardline assault rifle class. I like to use this class for maps like Yemen and Standoff, where you have a lot of long-range engagements, but you also have a lot of up-close, in-your-face engagements. So this works really well for those types of maps. Now, this is a variation of that class, and it's actually not a stealthy variation. And this class is set up pretty much for one map, and that's the one map that I like to camp on, and that is Carrier. So I have this class just for that map, and that's really the only time I use it. So I have on the SWAT 556 instead of the M8A1 because the SWAT 556 has better range. If I use the M8A1 on Carrier, I'm going to be shooting people across the map and getting a lot of hit markers. But with the SWAT 556, I can actually take them down. I've got the B23R for my secondary just in case I spawn on the other side. I like running a pistol over to the other side and taking the other spawn. I also have on flak jacket instead of ghost or anything like that because usually people try to tube you or grenade you out of the spot that I'm in. So I have that on to help me survive. Now the only other difference is I have shock charges equipped because I'm going to be camping. I don't need concussion grenades because I won't be running around. Instead, I want to prevent people from getting at me easily, so I'll throw those shock charges out to help do that. Now, since I didn't have that stealthy or silent version of the burst fire class, I actually go with it on this semi-automatic class instead. I really love the FAL. You can shoot people all the way across the map and drop them in hardcore with one bullet. And I really like the way the FAL fires compared to the SMR? I'm having a brain fart right now, but I just like the way this gun fires better in hardcore, that is. I have the Cap 40s. That just gives me an automatic version for when I'm up close and going against people because that burst fire or that semi-automatic fire up close just doesn't usually cut it. So that's why I have the Cap 40s there. And then you see all the perks and everything else set up just like I normally do. Obviously, this is my sniping class. I've got the SVU. Hands down, that is the best hardcore sniper rifle. Now, sometimes, honestly, it feels a little bit too easy or a little bit too cheap, so I'll switch to the other sniper rifles. They just are more satisfying when you get a kill with those. But hands down, like I said, the SVU is the most practical, best one to use. Now, if you notice, I have a suppressor on it, but I don't have on Ghost, so the suppressor really doesn't make sense on a hardcore class, but this is a feeling thing. I just just like suppressors on sniper rifles. It just makes me feel cool, so I use them. Not practical though. Now I do have on the ACOG because I like to move around when I snipe, and so the ACOG is a little bit easier for me to move around than the normal scope. I also have on the cap 40s, just like with the semi-automatic. I like having something automatic that I can engage people up close, and I also put on an extended clip because man, you burn through the bullets fast with the cap 40. Everything else is pretty much the same. Let me say something though about bouncing Bettys and shock charges. It's pretty easy to get past the bouncing Betty. If you throw a shock charge by it though, it makes it a little bit harder, and I find myself getting a lot more kills with my Bettys when I have the shock charge placed near them. Alright, this is my unusual class. I really believe everybody, if you have 10 classes available, everybody should have one class where they devote to just trying different things out. So it really doesn't matter what's in this class. I have on awareness as my perk 3 instead of engineer. I'm trying that perk out. I really loved Sitrep Pro in previous Call of Duty titles, being able to hear footsteps and everything like that. I really haven't liked it in Black Ops, but I'm going back to it and trying it out. So I think, don't worry about what's in this class. Just have a class set up where you can try different combinations of things and give different things a chance. I think this can help keep things fresh, and you might discover something that works really well for you. So have a class that you can just play around with different things. Last but not least, this is probably the most unusual class. This is my objective class, and I like using this in domination. So I have an SMG equipped, and I have the PDW in particular. An SMG is just going to help me move around the map a little bit faster. The PDW has a huge magazine or a huge clip, so I'm able to spray people down. I also have on fast mag, so I can reload it faster. I've got RPGs equipped for my secondary, just so I can shoot those in windows and take out campers or in different areas and take people out. I've got my perks set up to be defensive. I'm going to be able to survive explosions with the flak jacket. I'm going to be able to not be affected by EMP grenades with hardwired. Tactical mask is going to protect me from flashbangs and concussion grenades. And then I also have extreme conditioning so I can get to the flags faster. I also have a tactical insertion equipped, so if I die, I don't have to worry about spawning all the way across on the other side. I can lay that tactical insertion on just before I get to that flag, and that's just going to help me out. And then I also have C4 just because that's a fun lethal to use when you're playing domination. But those are all my classes as requested, at least the ones that I'm using right now. Like I said, that might change. And please keep in mind the things that I said in the very first part of this video. But if you like this, I would really appreciate it if you give this a thumbs up or a like. If you got any questions or comments or suggestions, I'd love to hear those as well. As always, though, take care and God bless.